Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 23-year-old competitive boulderer from Canada, currently living in Montreal. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record most of my training, provide an in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. So we are at another new gym, well, not new to myself climbing at. I've been to Crux once before, but new to the videos. We have not been to Crux yet on COMPCLIMB, and so this is our first stop. And as you can see, we have the MCNAMEEs joining us today. I mentioned a few videos ago that the MCNAMEEs are from out west, but they are staying in Montreal for about a month just for some training. And at this point in time, they'll be here for about another week. They are going to come do the high performance competition with Maddie and I. So when we all leave to go for that, they won't be coming back basically. So this is GUY MCNAMEE in the green shirt, and then his twin Kinder MCNAMEE is going to be wearing the Canadian team tank. It can be hard to tell them apart from the back, so that's your distinguishing factor for today. But yeah, here we are at Crux. We had one day off since Dark Horse, and the plan was to come do just a couple of sessions of bouldering at Crux. Well, at least for me, I'm doing a double session today, and then GUY and Kinder were just going to do one slightly longer session. And when we started warming up, GUY and Kinder were telling me about what they had on their agenda for the day, and they like to do an exercise where they pick 3 boulders and then they put 3 attempts on them each, and they asked me if I wanted to join in on that. And normally when I do my boulder sessions, I kind of like to sort of not really have an agenda, and if I'm going to do 5 on 5 off training or any sort of exercise like this, I will put it at a certain, like I'll program it in like very specifically. But since it was like a fun session with the MCNAMEEs, I decided I'd join them. So what we're seeing right now on the screen are like the last couple boulders from our warm-up, like the tail end of our warm-up. And then like right as we start the session, we're gonna jump into this exercise. And this is also maybe something I need to work on a little bit, is my training style is sort of naturally developed to be quite fast-paced. And if I rest for too long in between my attempts, I get cold really easily. Lots of people that have climbed with me in the past know that I climb very fast-paced, and it can be frustrating to try and keep up with me sometimes. And this is like a training style that I've developed since I was young, and it helps just basically keep me warm. I find the longer that I rest in between attempts, the more susceptible I am to injury, because I've just been training like this for 10 years plus, and it's really hardwired into my system, and it's difficult to undo this kind of training. So I always struggle during like Team Canada training camps or any sort of training camps in general, or sessions with other people when we have to do kind of an exercise that involves a lot of resting or taking turns. So I knew that it was going to be kind of like I'd be leaving my comfort zone basically for the session, and part of me didn't want to do that because especially because we're at a new gym and I like to kind of just try and take down all the boulders, like a nice clean session. But then another part of me was like, okay, well, I'm with the MCNAMEEs, I may as well take this opportunity to get out of my comfort zone and use it as like a training opportunity. And of course, it's just going to be some good fun with the MCNAMEEs. So this is an exercise that they do quite often. This is the first boulder that we're starting with, as you can see. They said to me that they always try to pick, so we're going to do 3 boulders for this exercise, like I mentioned, and they try to pick a power boulder, a coordination boulder, and a slab boulder. So this is the first one, and as you can tell, this is the power boulder, and Kinder's getting quite an impressive flash of this boulder. As you can see, it's graded V11. At this gym, they have fee grades as well as sort of like tape circuit as a bonus. So the black tapes here are graded V10 and 11, which I think is the same as the block shops actually. And then we have pink tapes are going to be like V8 and V9. So yeah, this is the power boulder that we're starting with. And the way that this exercise kind of worked out was I wanted to get footage of all of us climbing, obviously. So me and Kinder were in a group. So as you can see, we're sort of taking turns and we're climbing together. And then Guy went off on his own to do the boulders, like the other two boulders, while we were trying these. So Guy's like on a different boulder while Kinder and I are alternating on this one. And Guy's filming himself. That way we could get footage of everybody. So the McNamees were telling me that the idea with this exercise is it's basically designed to mimic like 5 on, 5 off training. You know, just your classic 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off, like the format that we would compete in a competition. But oftentimes the McNamees will train in the afternoon when the gym is quite busy. And I know from personal experience that it can be an absolute pain to try and do a 5 on, 5 off round while there's like a crowded gym. You know, it's not even really practicing the skill at this point anymore, because part of the 5 on, 5 off training is trying to be like super in the zone and focus and obviously practice competition tactics. But you can't really do that if you're constantly worried about somebody jumping on the wall or like kind of having to guard your boulder until your next attempt. And so this exercise with 3 boulders and 3 attempts each, you know, it trains a very similar skill to try and send these boulders quite fast. And the other idea is with the way they train this exercise, and they were telling me, is that if we fall, the idea is to not rest too long and try and get on the boulder in a timely fashion, similar to what you would do in a 5 minutes. So as you can see, he's kind of resting here and he's trying to get on the boulder in the time frame that he would normally if he was actually doing 5 minutes. And so I think that this is quite smart. And if you are a climber trying to train, like you want to do some 5 on, 5 off training or mock comp training, but you have to climb like during peak hours when the gym is crowded, I would definitely recommend using the McNamee's training exercise where they just go around, you can do a round of 3, 4, or 5 boulders and put 3 really high quality attempts on each and try to rest like a normal 5 on, 5 off amount in between each attempt. So as you can see, we were all able to finish off that first power boulder. That one quite suited all of our styles quite a lot, I think. And now we're moving on to this crazy looking boulder. So this boulder is going to be the theme of today's episode. This is like this mega paddle that is just has you traveling like all the way up the wall. And it's basically a 2-move boulder, traveling like quite a large distance. You do a paddle move and then you do a move to the finish hold and then you're done. So when we were eyeing up this boulder, because obviously we went around the session like before the session started and we're previewing all the boulders and tried to pick like 3 boulders that were really good for this round. So this one was the most least expected boulder to get done in this exercise when we were looking at it. To do this boulder in 3 attempts would be quite the feat. And as you can see, me and Kinder are really struggling on this and aren't even quite close to getting the middle hold of this paddle during this exercise. And what we were realizing is that this first hold, obviously it doesn't look like it's a very good hold, but we would expect to get a little bit more purchase than we were on it, and just enough to, you know, continue with the paddle sequence. But what we were realizing during this exercise was that this hold is really bad, and in order to get any sort of purchase on it, you have to be paddling off it like absolutely perfectly. And so Kinder and I were not able to do it in 3 attempts. And so now let's have a look at Guy's attempts. Mr. Guy is coming off of, you know, flashing all of the boulders in finals at Dark Horse. And one of those boulders was triple clutch paddle. That was the last boulder in finals that he flashed to get the win. And so we were counting on Guy to maybe make some more progress on this paddle since he's the paddle king recently. And as you can see, he's definitely quite a lot closer than we were in the 3 attempts, and almost touching the last hold in 3 attempts is quite impressive, especially after we discovered just how hard that boulder was later on in the session when we go back to retry it. So now this last boulder, as you can see, is the slab boulder. We had the power boulder first, did the coordination boulder second, and we're finishing off with the slab. So this one is quite cool. It was V9, so the other 2 were black tapes. This one was supposed to be a step down, but with the technical boulders, you know, they can always be quite tricky, and basically anybody can fall on technical boulders. So it doesn't actually matter that this boulder is like graded easier than the others. We can definitely find ourselves not being able to do this in 3 tries. And so actually, while I was trying this boulder, I had to be a little bit careful on this move here. This sort of like opening of the shoulder and rolling out into a press move is still a very insecure feeling position for me. Shoulder's still making somewhat steady progress. It's not 100% yet. I definitely like still feel the ache when it's in this position. It's not really pain, but it's like, feels like a little bit weak and unstable, I would say. So basically I just have to be very careful and slow and patient when I try these moves. Still no, sort of, I can't like commit like really aggressively into a press, and I have to find myself, like I have to catch myself anytime I want to do that kind of aggressive press out of a position like this and say, oh wait, I gotta slow it down a little bit so I won't hurt myself. But that wasn't necessarily stopping me from sending this boulder. As you can see, I was actually not able to complete it in 3 tries. I won't blame that on my shoulder. I would blame that on not really trusting my foot and not really finding the most optimal beta. I think even just this little exercise, the little bit of pressure was getting to me, especially climbing with these 2 strong guys. I wanted to do well. And so I was getting a little bit nervous, and I was not like trusting my feet or like really being relaxed enough to find a good body position. And you can see how it was costing me with a lot of foot slips. And so this is like obviously a great exercise. And if you have any training partners and you want to do this exercise, it can be good to do this with other people, because it can help put pressure on you and mimic the sort of competition atmosphere and pressure that we're trying to train with this exercise. So now here we've got GUY on this boulder. He, as you can see, he started with trying Kinder's beta, but then he goes into this mantle. And I guess I should mention, I don't know if I've actually mentioned this, we're not watching each other's attempts. So that's quite an important element of this exercise if you're doing it with other people. I guess you could see that I wasn't looking at Kinder, I was facing away from the wall. But we're all avoiding watching each other, which is why you can see we're all trying like quite different beta. And so after the little competition round, the McNamees always like to do a little debrief with each other and talk about the boulders, compare beta, and then go retry them. And so we did that for a second, and then I used GUY's beta that he discovered at the end with the sort of inwards press on the gray volume, and I felt quite comfortable. And usually I'm pretty good at finding the sort of twisted hand, like the inwards mantle, like I was just doing with my right hand. I did that a few times at Dark Horse actually, in the qualifying round specifically, but I didn't quite see it on that boulder, and GUY helped me out to really unlock that sequence. So anyway, after a bit of debrief, it was time to retry the boulders, and so now we're moving back onto this one, and this one was taking a lot of work. As you can see, we're kind of talking about the movements together, like really trying to figure out the subtleties of this jump. And it's crazy how some tries we would think we would figure something out, and then we would try it again the next attempt, like trying to emphasize whatever we thought we just learned, and then it was like a really bad attempt and no progress was being made. I would say personally, I have quite a good understanding of movement, and it's not often that I'm just completely stumped by the mechanics of a movement, and I'll at least kind of know what to emphasize or what to go for on a sort of paddle move or a jump. And maybe I'm just not physically strong enough to do it, or we're just sort of not getting lucky enough to do it. But this move, I start to figure it out later, like a little bit of what works for me, but I feel like I wasn't figuring out the optimal movement. I was just figuring out how I could execute it. So this crazy, like, you know, a million clutch paddle move was just stumping the heck out of me. I could not figure it out. And Guy was definitely the closest of us while we were trying this. So he was really trying to give me and Kinder the pointers. He personally really liked the leg swing at the start that you can see him doing. He swings his left leg and tries to like really swing it inwards. And he says that helped him a lot. And you can see I'm trying it a little bit here, but it didn't quite click for me. And then Guy is also was really slowing down on like the paddle hold, which me and Kinder weren't as much. We would try and pull off of it quite fast, and we would sort of do a helicopter spin outwards. Here you can see Guy's explaining this leg kick to me, and he was explaining that he would really emphasize like doing a sort of a round and in kick. So he would bring his leg back and go out from the wall and into the wall. It would help him bring him like really close, so that he could get quite close to the wall when he hits this bad sloper and turn it into a good hold. I guess that was like a pretty decently close try by me there using Guy's beta, but it didn't feel closer than some of the other things I was trying. But at the same time, I couldn't really argue with Guy. As you can see, he's making it work here, and he finally stuck this move after we've all collectively put like 50 attempts. Guy finally put it down. He's the paddle king right now, just doing all the paddles around town and winning comps with the paddles. So if you're looking for paddle advice, Guy's your guy to talk to. But yeah, since Guy did that boulder and me and Kinder weren't super close, we decided to move on, and I decided I would save the paddle for the second session to try again. So yeah, I'm gonna have another boulder session later on and just do sort of a shorter morning session. But then the McNamees were planning to go for like another hour. So I decided to climb with them a little bit longer, try some more of the moderates around the gym, and then just call it and wait for my second session. So here we are, moving on to another boulder that was not part of our competition round. This one is a kind of technical looking crimpy V9. Guy, me and Kinder were sort of resting on the mat, and then we turn and see Guy sort of just cruising up this boulder. And then we got on it and realized it was a little bit more spicy than he was making it look. But man, I just gotta say how fun it is to climb with the McNamees. Like, these guys have been my rivals since we were like quite young. I think we started competing against each other when we were like maybe 13, 14. And we've always been neck and neck. There have been like lots of times at youth nationals where it'll be like 2 out of the 3 of us will be on the podium, and it'll be like first, like Guy first, I'm second, or Kinder's first. There was one year where we're all 3 of us were on the youth finals podium. I think that was when Kinder won, I was second, and Guy was third. But we're always just trading positions and always like pushing each other. And we're all also quite good at different things. And so we're like this sort of perfect group of rivals, and we're all like genuinely happy for each other when we beat each other in a competition, and even in training when someone's succeeding on a boulder. I really like our trio, and I love training with these guys, and they're just genuinely good friends too. Last year, Guy went with Maddie and I to Japan, and we shared accommodations and did some training together, which was a lot of fun. So I am gonna be looking forward to training with these guys for probably a couple more times before the HB comp, and really milking this a good opportunity. So now we're moving on to another boulder. This one was quite tricky looking, sort of semi-powerful V10. This was going to be in our round initially until we kept walking around the gym and discovered the other black power boulder that we decided was a bit more spicy and would be even better for our competition round. But initially this one was going to be in there. And like I was talking about earlier, I was definitely like, had to try a little bit extra hard during this session to kind of stay warm enough, just because there was 3 of us and we were taking turns and moving around the gym a lot. And I was actually having to have a similar battle when we were having our group spray wall session a few episodes ago. And I find that I just really do struggle to climb in groups sometimes. Some days are better than others. I find if there's enough psych and even adrenaline during a training session, that I will be good enough and my body can sort of stay warm, and this effect where I get cold really easily won't be as prevalent. But if there's a day where I just kind of feel so-so, which was today, like I felt like not super strong, but not bad, just kind of mediocre. And we were climbing in the morning, obviously. We got to the gym quite early. And that's when this can sort of be most prevalent, is that I really have just conditioned my body to train super fast pace and just kind of like go, go, go. Otherwise, I'll get cold and my fingers can't perform like at their maximum capabilities. And so I do really kind of struggle a bit sometimes to train with other people, which is quite unfortunate because it is so valuable, and it especially as like a competitive boulderer, it was so useful to train with these guys and really push myself. And also just comparing yourself is, if it's in a healthy way, it's like very, very useful for training. It can either give a confidence boost to sort of what you think you're good at, and if you can, keep up with the MCNAMEs or even outperform them sometimes, it can be reassuring that what you're training is working, or just it can be a good mental boost. And it can also go the other way and show you what you still need to work on. And so training with MCNAMEs, I'd love to be able to do it all the time, or even having our mega group session that we were having on the spray wall a few episodes ago. I'd love to be able to do that like quite often, but I find that with me, there's a really fine line, and I need to find the balance because of the way that I've kind of conditioned my body to train like so fast paced and not allow for lots of resting and chatting. I find that I can't necessarily train physically optimally in groups of people. And so I want to try and get like a balance of training with people and get the benefits of, learning more about your own climbing abilities, learning techniques from other climbers, or, just being pushed by rivals and friends that are at your abilities. But also I need to get the balance of training like physically optimally and being able to try boulders at 100% effort when I'm like nice and warm and not, kind of battling my weird training style and the way that I've conditioned myself. And this is something that I find is quite specific to me, and not many people deal with this. I find it's more normal for climbers to be able to take long rests and just sort of sit around in a group. But me personally, I really, really struggle with it. And sort of like training camps or big group sessions is where I really find that it hurts me. I don't think I've really talked about this too much in previous episodes, but it's because we haven't really been climbing with anybody. And now that we have like more people to climb with in Montreal, it's sort of more relevant. And I find that it's going to be important for me to find a good balance of climbing with people, but also training on my own, because it's so motivating and tempting to just be like, yeah, let's go have a session with like these people all the time. Like I kind of want to do it all the time, but then sometimes I find that my training would be different than what it was. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of something that I'm realizing with Montreal is going to be important too, is to find a good mix of training with friends and strong climbers, but also training on my own. But I'm glad that obviously we had this session with the McNamees. This was a really good session, and I did like being pushed out of my comfort zone, especially with their training exercise, and it was a lot of fun. So anyway, you can see we're still trying some more boulders, and I'm like no longer hopping on these climbs. That's because my hour-long session of bouldering was concluded, but the McNamees continued on, and I just decided to hang out with them for a little bit and get some more footage of them. And I would go try these boulders in my second session after resting for quite a bit. So by the time the McNamees wrapped up their session, they had basically put down every boulder in the gym. There were a couple more black tapes they ticked off. I think the only boulder they didn't end up doing was like this like super crimpy looking 10, and that was at the end of their session, and by then their fingers were a bit too tired. So yeah, fun session with the McNamees, and now it's time for me to rest up for a few hours and then get up back on these boulders for session 2. So here we are back for session 2, and the main priority for this session was definitely going to be the mega paddle. That boulder was really stumping me, and I really don't like not understanding moves. Like obviously for people who watch the channel a lot know that I don't like to leave boulders unsent, especially really cool boulders. I really like to put my stamp on them and really finish them off. But even more so than not liking to leave boulders undone, I really don't like to not understand movements or not understand why I'm failing on a boulder. Like at the very least, I need to know that I understand what it takes to be able to do a boulder, and then maybe I'm just not quite able to execute it. But with this paddle, after working it for quite a while in the morning, I still didn't even know what to do to be able to stick it. So that was really the goal, was to, at the very least, learn this super new school move of this like new style paddle that we had the lucky chance to get on at Crux because they happened to have set such an epic boulder. So here we are, just doing some moderates to really get the body warm to go try the paddle. But, well, actually first, of course, we had to try this 10 that the McNamees did earlier in the day after I had finished my session. So they were kind of struggling a little bit with the toe hook move here in the middle, and I found the same thing. It was quite slippery. And so what I end up doing on this try is I use a heel hook for this move. And I have talked a bit about this in the past, but I find I'm quite strong with my heels, and I'm not super good with my toe hooks. And so anytime there's a toe hook where that isn't too far and I can actually use my heel because the hold is close enough, I'm always going to feel stronger with my heel. And so that helped me a little bit here at the end of this boulder. And so after doing this 10, there were 2 black tapes left up in the gym. There was the micro crimpy one that like I mentioned, that the McNamees couldn't quite do at the end of their session, and I didn't want to get on it because it was just, especially after trying this paddle quite a lot in the morning, my tips were a little pink, and I didn't want to quite grab those little crimps. So basically, the last priority of the day and all that was left on my mind was to really do this boulder. And as you can see, I'm trying it quite a lot. So now, I have something to say. On this boulder, I lost my absolute mind. I absolutely went into a rage, and it has been a long time since this has happened to me. Obviously, like I just got through saying, I don't like leaving boulders undone. I don't like understanding movements. And so as you can see, I'm getting quite close to this move. My hand is hitting this last jug a lot, and you may be thinking, why am I just not holding onto this? And that is what I was thinking every time I was trying this boulder as well. And so as every attempt went by where my hand was just in the hold just like that, and then right out of there, I was getting so frustrated. I was getting, like, I haven't thrown a tantrum like this in a long time, and my skin was getting ripped up. I was getting so pink, and I knew with every try that I put on this boulder, I was ruining the rest of my training week. And it got to the point where I was just like wanted to hurt myself at this point. And then as you can see, my tries start to diminish. On my like second or third last try, I ripped a massive flapper on my hand trying to grab this first battle hold. And then on this try here, which was my last try of the day, I ripped another one. Warning, if you don't want to see blood, pause or click off right now. But the second flapper that I ripped was where I had to call the session. And if I didn't rip that other flapper, I probably would have even kept trying the boulder. So I have a quite important tip of the day for this episode, and that is control yourself. I got a really intense and hard reminder of that today. I did not control myself. It wasn't even that, Guy did the boulder or that I couldn't do the boulder. It was just, I was just getting mad that I was getting so close and not being able to do it. And I'm pretty upset with myself that I just could not control myself and kept throwing myself at a boulder, and it was not optimal for training. I wasn't even learning anything at this point. I was just sort of trying to force my way through this paddle without even thinking about it or trying to learn a move. And I still don't understand what it takes to do that paddle at this point. I was just throwing myself at it. So anyway, since I screwed that up so hard, I ripped like 3 flappers. My tips are so pink. I have a bit of whiplash on my neck right now from doing the sort of drop and roll fall so many times. And so now I put myself in a position where I actually need to take rest week early because I'm such an idiot. So I'm going to take my 4-day rest week now. I'm just going to move it up a bit. And so I'll probably be gone from the videos for just a few days. And then we'll be back with some fresh skin and maybe a bit more control over my attitude. Because that's not how we get better at climbing, by just throwing ourselves at a boulder and raging and having a tantrum. So hard reminder of that today. The Crux kicked my butt, but it's an epic gym and we'll be going back for sure. Insert catch a video right here.